alongside Bob Paisley and Zinedine Zidane. And while Paisley and Zidane achieved their hat-tricks with one club, this duo cover more of a continent. The interesting thing about their relationship is that whereas once you would have put them together at one end of the spectrum in football's ideological debate, now they seem very different. Take this year's quarter-final clash between the two. Ancelotti's Madrid had 30% possession, faced 33 shots, and spent most of the game in their own half in the second leg, and yet still won. Meanwhile, Pep would have nightmares of doing such a thing. But the funny thing is that if that was the first time you watched Ancelotti, you would probably think he was some Tony Pulis, Sean Dyche Brexit manager who just got a bit lucky. Yet, his Chelsea team in 2009 was the first team in Premier League history to score over 100 goals in a season. Meanwhile, his AC Milan 2001 team would play essentially tiki-taka football and dominate the game with their deep-line playmaker, something which Guardiola even introduced himself following Ancelotti. So, if I asked you to tell me how a Carlo Ancelotti team played, I would probably get about 40 different answers. This style of management nowadays seems outdated. Think of all the top managers in the world right now: Pep, Arteta, Klopp, Luis Enrique, even Inzaghi. They all have a clear identity and philosophy which they have been working on for years. So, how exactly has Ancelotti managed to become the most decorated manager in Champions League history and arguably the best manager in world football in 2024, schooling all of these guys without a clear philosophy? Let's take a look. To understand what makes Ancelotti the manager so special, we need to take a brief look at his journey and where it all began, which was as a player. Ancelotti was actually a very good footballer. As a player, he prevailed because he possessed extraordinary strategic skills. Ancelotti was part of the legendary Milan team under Arrigo Sacchi, one of the most influential managers in football history. So Ancelotti was on the pitch when a revolution was taking place, when the operating system of a modern game was being programmed, the ball-oriented zonal marking, the blueprint of modern-day football. This experience is a prerequisite for a top coach. Any coach who has not played at the highest level is missing something that Ancelotti has. And so, his deep understanding of the game, the players, the minute details of professional football comes from within. Ancelotti as a player was a learner. After all, Sacchi claims Ancelotti to be his prodigal son, but a coach he resembles most is actually Niels Lildholm. The man known as Il Barone reminded him a bit of his father, a humble farmer in northern Italy who didn't used to lose his temper even when the harvest was going badly. It was Lildholm who stopped off in nearby Parma to sign Ancelotti for Roma when he was just a 20-year-old kid. He shifted me into midfield where I felt more at ease, Ancelotti said. He was a great character. Niels took me to heart and wasted a lot of time on me, giving me tactical advice, pep talks on my technique, life skills. He had this formidable sense of humour and knew how to get rid of any pressure and tension I had. He was so calm. Sound familiar? Lindholm's calm and carefree persona left an incredible mark on Ancelotti. He was someone who'd come over from Sweden and won everything there was to win with AC Milan, playing at the San Siro as if the arena were his back garden. Nothing fazed him. When his keeper asked him to take a goal kick one day and Milan lost possession, still believe a football team shouldn't be turned into an army. Discipline's fine, but it shouldn't be founded on individuals taking responsibility for themselves rather than just handing out fines. Leerdholm had all figured that out. If he could sense too much tension in the dressing room, he'll get the club doctor to come in and tell a few jokes, Ancelotti said. Leerdholm's lessons are still at the calm core of Ancelotti's Champions League winning philosophy. Even when he left Roma for a third and final spell, managing Milan, Leerdholm's pioneering role in transitioning Italian football away from man marking towards zonal concepts placed Ancelotti at the right place at the right time for one of the game's major sea changes. Leerdholm preceded Sacchi at Milan and laid the foundations for what would be a football revolution. Sacchi's Milan was an era-defining team, one that pushed football forward, much like Johan Cruyff's Ajax had done and Pep Guardiola's Barcelona would later. Ancelotti was right in the middle of it, scoring in the 5-0 demolition of Real Madrid on the way to winning back-to-back European Cups. When he quit on his own terms as a player in 1992, he went on to work with Sacchi on the national team. He was initially a disciple. From Sacchi, I learned a lot. He demanded a lot of himself and those by his side. It was the best way to learn. He helped me understand how to motivate a team and an individual over a short and long-term period. He taught me a methodology and how to communicate in an effective way, said Ancelotti. There was a fundamentalism about Sacchi. He wanted to win, he wanted to press, and he wanted to play a 4-4-2. Initially, Ancelotti followed the same rigid ways. Contrary to popular belief, he was just like a Pep Guardiola and stubborn. It would take time for Ancelotti to leave that path and find his own way. At Parma, for instance, he endorsed the sale of Gianfranco Zola to Chelsea, and even turned down the opportunity to sign Roberto Baggio, because there was no role for a number 10 in the system he'd learned from Sacchi. But all of that changed when he went to Juventus. More specifically, one man would mean Ancelotti would turn into the man he is today, and the legendary manager he became. That man, Zinedine Zidane. Crucially, for Ancelotti's career, he developed a tactical flexibility at Juventus, as initially he couldn't really get the best out of Zidane at Juve. But he decided to make a simple tweak on his system in order to maximise Zizou, and from then on, it worked like a treat. Juve started playing better, and Zidane was suddenly incredible. At Juve, he became adaptable and also developed the interpersonal skills, as he essentially became the Galactico Whisperer, the coach for a star-studded team. The evolution of Ancelotti pre- and post-Juve Zidane was notable at Milan. In the 2003 final against Juventus at Old Trafford, he wasn't expecting Marcelo Lippi to push Gianluca Zambrotta up in place of the suspended Paolo Nedved and play Paolo Montero at left back. Rather than stick to his original plan, which maybe before he went to Juve Ancelotti would have done, Ancelotti asked Andrei Shevchenko to alternate with Rui Costa and have a go at Montero, who could not live with the speed and strength of the Ukrainian. Before kick-off in Manchester, he had shown the players videos with images of their season. Other videos had been put together in earlier rounds of the competition, but this was a Super Cup, purposefully including every member of the squad to make them all feel they had contributed to the run to be counted on to contribute in it too. This was typical of Ancelotti, and it was on display after the 2022 season's semi-final too, when he made a point of highlighting the role fringe players such as Jesus Vallejo and Dani Ceballos played in helping the team see out the win over Manchester City. The tactical adjustment Ancelotti made at Old Trafford that night in May 2003 caused Juventus all kinds of problems, and while the game would ultimately go to penalties, it was proof that Carlo was no longer a rigid manager. Ancelotti trusted and consulted his players then, and still does to this day. That was the case during extra time in the semi-final against Man City in 2022, when he was spotted on the sideline taking on feedback from Toni Kroos and Benzema about what the team needed in the final half hour of the game. At PSG, he was self-aware and humble enough to use Zlatan Ibrahimovic to get his ideas across. He would simply tell Zlatan to tell the players what to do, as everyone listened to Zlatan. In that 2003 final, he listened to Shevchenko and moved him down the order from first to last of their penalty takers. We all know how that ended. Milan won the Champions League and Shevchenko scored the most important spot kick in the history of the club. For a long time though, Ancelotti vowed never to rewatch the nightmare in Istanbul vs Liverpool, and for many managers, a defeat in that manner on the biggest stage would be enough to crush them and their team. Most managers would never recover. Everyone speaks about the miracle at Istanbul from the Liverpool side, but there's also the Milan side. Ancelotti was on the receiving end of that. But, as was an example of Ancelotti's strong character and versatility, just 2 years later, against the same team in the final, it was AC Milan who would come out victorious, and Ancelotti got his revenge. He also began going through old game plans and thought he could only learn from those experiences. That can be seen through his current team. That Ancelotti Milan side were free-flowing and fluid in their football. He was desperate to accommodate as many midfield playmakers as possible, at a time when others went for destroyers. Ancelotti fielded Andre Pirlo, Clarence Seedorf and Kaka in the same time in midfield, and sometimes used Rui Costa and turned it into a Christmas tree 4-1-2-1-2. That is the exact same formation he now uses at Real Madrid, with Bellingham at the tip of a diamond, and the parallels between the two sides are startling. Despite the tactic working 20 years ago, Ancelotti has managed to use the same tactic in 2024 with some adjustments, and is getting the same results. This sort of longevity is a trait of legends, and not many can be able to do this. When you've been in the game for that long though, you're bound to have some luck along the way. A 94th minute goal from Ramos in the Champions League final helped get La Decima for Ancelotti. A man of the match performance by Courtois in the 2022 final helped win his most recent Champions League. And even his latest success, 2 penalty saves from backup keeper Lunin, sent his side to the semi-finals. Whatever you make of his luck, 8 Champions League finals cannot be called coincidence. Ancelotti is a creator of cultures. For me, Carlo is more than just a coach, Shevchenko said. He is a friend, an incredible person. I think his biggest strength is he always creates the right relationship to get the best out of the player. In all his years at Milan, Maldini claimed the best quality of life was under Ancelotti. He has never kept players at a distance. special relationship with the team. One night I was out for dinner in Paris with 6 players. We called him over to say hi, and 20 minutes later he was sat at our table having a beer, recalled Zlatan. The photo of Ancelotti in Vinicius Jr.'s sunglasses, smoking a cigar and joking around with Karim Benzema on the open-top bus parade to celebrate Madrid's La Liga title win in 2022 showed he hasn't lost that invaluable human touch. Or even in the final, when they won the Champions League, and Ancelotti can be seen dancing with Vini, Camavinga, Rodrigo and Valverde. It's something that explains why, for all the fitness work done by managers like Pep, these players, Ancelotti's players, go that extra mile for him. It also explains his longevity. While he's also been tactically flexible, many managers who were great in the 2000s struggled in the modern game, not because of their tactics necessarily, but because of their man management. Ancelotti excels at this, as his relaxed nature and ability to keep everybody happy means he doesn't care when his players are on social media all the time, or winding up opposition fans making dumb tweets. While many managers have been unable to adapt to this, as they want control and discipline, something that happened in the olden days, Ancelotti is the opposite, and he couldn't give a damn if Bellingham was driving a bright pink Lamborghini to training every day. As long as he was happy and playing well, that is all that matters to Carlo. That's probably a large reason why, with Mbappe coming to Madrid this summer, they decided to extend Ancelotti, as he is the perfect manager for this new Galactico Madrid side. But those who believe Ancelotti is simply a man motivator and just great vibes is wrong. Tactically, he is intelligent. As we mentioned, his Milan diamond system was incredible, but also revolutionary. Back in the 2000s, European football was largely defensive, concerned with shape, structure, and counter-attacking. Jose Mourinho and Rafa Benitez felt like the managers who defined the Champions League at this point. In contrast, Ancelotti's Milan side felt like outliers with their unique diamond shape. It takes a great deal of tactical knowledge to win the league in 5 different countries with 5 different languages and motivate these players, but Carlo knows exactly how to do this. Not only can he manage players, but he can also manage the egos of owners. Ancelotti has got on with powerful men like Berlusconi, Roman Abramovich, Florentino Perez, and Nasser El-Khelaifi. Berlusconi notoriously would have a large say in transfers, sit in the changing rooms at half time, and even influence some of the team selections for Milan. For most managers, this is unbearable, but Carlo allowed this, within reason, as he knew how to manage his relationship. At Chelsea, Roman Abramovich was perhaps the most hot-headed and reactionary owner in world football, capable of firing a manager for one game. But Carlo, again, managed this very, very well. At PSG, we all know the problems they have with bringing in flashy new signings, but yet again, Carlo knew how to deal with this. This is one of his more underrated traits, as he's worked for probably the worst and most demanding owners in world football and been successful under all of them. Ultimately, Carlo Ancelotti is perhaps the greatest man manager in the history of football. Genius is simply not available in every game. Ancelotti knows that, and the players know that he knows it. They support each other because he is one of them. He does not lose his nerve after defeats, but stands in front of his players. The team and the coach are one unit, and that is a merit of Ancelotti. He recognises great players and centres the team around them. He's humble enough to acknowledge that with certain players, there's no point holding them back with his tactics, as their talent is better than any tactics he can give them. But he's also smart enough to recognise with certain players they need the tactical help that can take them to that next level, as seen with someone like Jude Bellingham this season. He loves what he does, he loves football, and he loves footballers. That is why everyone likes to play for Carlo Ancelotti. It's simple, yet complex. He has mastered this beautiful style of management. He is the perfect example that there is not one way to play football or one way to coach a team, but hundreds. Don Carlo may add a fifth Champions League this season, and if that happens, well, serious conversations will be had about if Ancelotti is pound for pound the number one greatest manager in the history of football. Whatever happens though, Carlo Ancelotti is one of the GOATs. So there we go. That is Carlo Ancelotti explained. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any thoughts,